Hey, I'm Ruji, and today we're joined with
Grayden.
And I'm Ruji. Welcome to the Vegan Ambition podcast number 2. And today's main question is, as a meat eater, what is your opinion on a very ambitious and or pushy vegan?
Mm-hmm.
But before we start, I'd like to thank today's sponsors. And today I'd like to thank Egg Replacer, Green Peas, and of course, Basmati Rice. This podcast is a tool to help vegans, vegetarians, and anyone else who is interested in the vegan lifestyle. On this podcast, we'll have a different guest every week, and we're going to discuss a topic on veganism, and we will debate different viewpoints. The Vegan Ambition is a no-pressure zone and a no-hostility zone. We do not pressure our guests, but are simply here to discuss different viewpoints. I hope that you'll join us on this journey, and of course, education is our biggest goal here. If you don't know me already, I'm Ruji, and I've been vegan for over a year now. I'm not a perfect vegan, but I'm trying to become one.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully you can join me on this journey of veganism and learn something new in the process. And this is Grayden. Grayden is not a vegetarian, but he's open to learning more about it. Is that right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So why don't you tell us a bit about yourself, Grayden?
So I'm Grayden. I'm currently a student at the University of Waterloo with my friend Ruji here. I am a meat eater. I do consume a lot of meat. Mostly because my diet goals are, at this point, I'm trying to kind of put on lots of weight, gain muscle, and for me, the easiest way to do that is through a meat eater's diet. And yeah, I don't know, I'm open to like discussing and talking about other dietary ways of living. Yeah, I don't know.
So right now you would say that your reason for eating meat, because we've talked about this recently, and you said that you would consider going vegetarian or vegan in a little bit when you're more comfortable with your goals, right?
Well, yeah, so right now, for me to live the life that I want to be living and be comfortable with the way I look and the way I feel and my health and all sorts of things like that, the most efficient, the easiest way for me on my budget and the way that I'm living is definitely to be a meat eater. I can see the pros and cons of being a vegan or a vegetarian. I understand the environmental impacts and things along those lines, and those are interesting to me. So yeah, maybe in a few years or so I would consider it, but at the moment right now, it's not really in my wheelhouse as an option.
Now, can you tell me about your day-to-day in terms of your diet? So I understand, I mean, obviously you don't eat meat for all of your meals or...
A lot of them. Okay. But so I eat a lot. I wake up...
And would that be like chicken, or is that like beef and...
It depends on the day.
Depends on the day.
So,
okay. So you're not limiting yourself to anything, you're just...
No, I actually purposely mix it up because I used to eat just like a lot of chicken because it's a leaner protein, and I got real sick of it, so I've been switching it up. But yeah, so like my average day of eating would be I would wake up, eat a bowl of oatmeal with fruits in it, probably some honey as well, and then a peanut butter sandwich.
Now I'm just curious, because honey was our topic last week. So why the honey? Because it
adds calories, it adds flavor.
But versus like maple syrup or agave syrup?
I don't know. I'm just used to... Honey was something I bought. It's fairly cheap, and I'm used to using it. I feel like maple syrup is a little too sweet for my liking.
Okay.
Because with the fruits already in it, I usually go blackberries or raspberries and stuff. Honey is a good kind of additive to it.
Okay. Keep going.
So yeah, I'll have that with my peanut butter sandwich. Then I'll have a snack about halfway through the day of like nuts and fruits and stuff like that. Probably an apple and some almonds. Then around lunch, depending, like, so I've been working a lot, so I've just been going to the food court. But I'll have basically, like, ideally I'll have some kind of high carb base, so lots of rice or some pasta with a protein. So lots of the time it's roast chicken. And then I'll try to have a green in there as well, so whether it's a spinach salad or something like that. Then I'll have another snack kind of thing after that with fruits and nuts. And then for dinner, that's usually like super carb heavy and lots of meat. So I do like pasta with meat sauce that I'll make, or I'll do like pork chops I've been doing a lot lately. And I like to do sweet potatoes. I'll do sweet potatoes in that. And then I'll usually have like another small meal before I like finally go to sleep, and that's usually like I'll do like a small sandwich with deli meats or something. Yeah.
Okay, now I'm just curious, in terms of like, have you tried meat alternatives in the past? So, for example, tofu is very cheap, right?
Yeah,
You
I've
said,
had tofu.
and it's also very high in protein.
Yeah.
So, what's kind of your perspective on that? And
I've had them and they're not terrible. I don't know. I do prefer the taste of meat in a lot of
right,
areas. Like I love having a steak instead of like tofu. Like I've had it. I know there's lots of better ways to cook it to make it taste great.
okay,
But as far as time and effort for me having to make it taste good, I just throw barbecue sauce on a steak and it's done. Whereas like I'm doing a lot more prep with tofu that I've been doing.
okay, okay, interesting.
But yeah, no, like I'm not opposed to it. Just I don't know. The last like for me, I'm comfortable with the way I go to the grocery store and do things, and it would be a fairly radical change at this point. And for me to continue for my goals that I'm at, I'm pretty easy like doing what I'm doing. And then if at some point I decide, yeah, I'm ready to make a big change and start eating that way, then yeah, absolutely, I'll be more inclined to do that.
Now, have you watched or seen any kind of information? Because I'm not that big on terms of the health stuff. Like, I don't know that much about it in terms
Yeah.
of working out and all that stuff. But there's a lot of actually really good YouTubers who I've watched in the past. There's this one guy named John Venus, I think, and he's like super jacked, and he's on a vegan diet. And so I'm just curious, have you considered that like maybe that could be a path for you as well?
So yeah, I have absolutely looked at that. The problem is with me right now, my metabolism is absurd. So
Okay.
the amount of calories and protein and things that I need to intake in order
Right.
to even maintain is really high. So lots of the people that I do, because I was really into the like my fitness, so I watched a lot of bodybuilding things on YouTube and fitness things. And for a majority of the people that are being really successful with the vegan diet and bodybuilding, they are more mesomorphs or ectomorphs, which is
Okay.
a body type where it's a lot easier to put on fat and muscle. So they're really not having to supplement as much. Where I'm an exomorph, exomorph. So that means that I have a very kind of low fat percentage of my body. I really need to work to gain extra calories and things like that to put on weight. So for me to be eating a vegan diet and fulfill my goals, I need to be eating like 3 times as much as that type of person.
Okay.
And that's where it kind of becomes an issue.
I see. Okay, so that's interesting because I've never known that actually. That's very interesting to know. Now, because I'm a vegan who has different kinds of like viewpoints. So there's vegans that go vegan for the environment. There's vegans that go vegans for themselves. There's vegan that go vegan for animals. Now, out of those three, what kind of do you think is like the most important for you right now?
For me, the one that I would the only one that I would view as switching is the environment.
Right.
Because I absolutely understand that the animal cruelty and things like that is a huge issue, but just choose to get your meat at a place where it's not, you know. And I know that's a lot of effort, but so is becoming a vegan. So is doing all these other things.
Right.
And so when I'm sourcing my meat and things like that, I do try my best when it's possible to be choosing places that I know are not abusing animals and things like that. And I know it's in general, so like if I go to a Walmart, I can't know where all that meat's from. When I go to like a farmer's market and things like that, that's where I'm more comfortable
Sure.
doing things like that. And then as far as for me, I don't know, if I wouldn't become a vegan for me, because right now I enjoy eating meat. I enjoy that more than doing that. My reason for potentially switching down the road would be the environment, because I feel like that's a very important aspect.
Right. And I mean, from the environment perspective, I would say that the worst two things are beef
Yep.
and are seafood.
Yep.
So, I mean, have you thought about just cutting one of those two out of your diet? I know you said that you ate chicken for a long time, and that ended up being kind of hard. But
like overall, I don't eat a lot of beef. Like when I'm doing my ground meats, I usually go pork. But I like pork and chicken are kind of my main ones, and occasionally I'll splash out and do beef and stuff.
Sure.
At this point, because also like I feel like it might just be a little selfish, but I'm like I'm not making that choice yet to do those things.
Right.
So when I get to the point where I'm going to do that, that's fine. But I've got the idea of I'm one person. Me just choosing to eat beef over, I mean, just choosing not to eat beef and doing all these things is going to be impacting slightly my goals a little bit and making it a little harder for me to find certain things because beef is super easy to get protein. It's a really high protein thing. So yeah, I think because I've got the mindset of down the road I'm probably going to switch or do something else.
Sure.
Right now, my limited impact isn't really going to make a big deal, so I don't need to go out of my way to change it.
Okay, and now I'm just curious because when we used to live together in a house, whatever, we were roommates, and back then I think very early on you were not opposed, but you weren't like, you didn't really understand what I was doing.
I was more, I'm used to people who are vegan or whatever being very aggressive towards me. Because me being me, I'm eating a lot of meat, I'm doing all this.
Yeah.
So when they see that, they're usually very aggressive.
Yeah.
So I'm automatically like standoffish. I don't want to get involved. So by me saying, I don't care, I don't want to learn about this, I don't want to whatever, is more like just stopping conversations from happening because I've got my opinions, I'm comfortable with where I'm at. And I know like in my mind, like maybe later on, whatever, veganism. So knowing how my mindset is, I just didn't want to enter any conversations because I was just like, I don't want to deal with this. Because lots of the time, not necessarily you, but like the other vegans or people that I've dealt with, similar to the question that we're going to be answering, is they're just so like aggressive and telling me that I'm a bad person for making the choices that I'm making in my life right now. So I just try to avoid that. Yeah. Now I've kind of developed a little more, so I'm much more open to the conversations. But I was very much like just trying to shut it down.
And I mean, we lived together for a year, for not the whole time, but for a large, like 4 or 5 months, I was vegan.
Yeah.
And I was a bit pushy at the beginning.
A little bit. The egg incident was pushy.
Yeah, I was definitely a bit pushy. But I mean, I think I've come around.
No, yeah,
you've
absolutely.
come around as well. And basically what I'm trying to get across is do you think that me kind of being in your environment helped you to the place where you're at now, where you're okay with not eating meat?
Honestly, not really. There was one instance that really kind of switched my perspective, which is one of my like really good friends that I've known for a very long time switched to being a vegan, and he didn't even say anything about it. So he was just whatever doing his own thing. We'd go out and he would just order certain things and we didn't notice until one day I was like, like, why didn't you order this or why didn't you do that? And he's like, oh no, I've been vegan for a really long time. And the fact that I'd been with him and doing all these things, and I realized that it hadn't super impacted his life a lot. That's when I became a little more, because other than that, like with you, like we were like very like, oh, this is great vegan. Like you're telling me about it a lot, so there's a lot of information about it. So I was oh, you're specifically choosing to do this, choosing to do that, choosing to do that.
Right.
Whereas he was like, oh no, like it's just a thing that happened. That's where I was like, like he's done all the same things we've done. He's like done all like. It was also because I'd known him for so long and I had like he didn't change a lot because I didn't really know you super well, so I was just like, oh, he's just another like vegan person who does so and so, right?
Yeah.
That actually changed my perspective a lot more, and he was like very much about the environmental thing, and he talked about all these things, and we had like really long talks about it, and that changed a lot for me.
That's very interesting to hear, and that's awesome to hear. I mean, I definitely can see that you've changed because before, like, I had a barbecue, right, a couple days ago, and you were mostly fine with just eating vegan that day.
Yeah.
And that, I don't think that would have been a realistic goal a year ago.
Realistically, no. Like, I'd say I was, like, a little bit closed-minded just because for me, if I'm like, I'm trying this stuff, and then like somebody goes, oh, so like, did you notice that doesn't have meat? Yeah, I noticed it doesn't have meat, but then it becomes a whole thing, like blah blah blah. Whereas like I'm comfortable with all you guys. Like I know that you understand a little bit where I'm coming from. I understand where you're coming from. So you're not gonna be like pushing me to do whatever. Like on your barbecue thing, you said if you want to eat meat, bring meat. So I brought some hot dogs just in case, kind of thing. But no, I'm not against like vegan alternatives and things. Like I honestly enjoy the taste of them sometimes. The thing I don't like is when they're being marketed as something that they're not. Like you are giving, it's like, oh, this is a burger, but it's like tell me what's in it. Like, is it an artichoke patty burger? Is it a black bean patty burger? Don't tell me it's meat substitute. I don't like that.
Okay.
And because if I'm like, you know what, I'm feeling a black bean burger today, I'll eat it for that taste, right? But if I'm eating a meat substitute, I don't know what's in it, I don't like that, and it makes me feel a little more uncomfortable.
Okay.
And I'm not a picky eater too, is another thing. Like I'm super open to trying like whatever food, so I'm not scared by the vegan alternatives. Like I used to go camping and do kayaking a lot, and I've had like raw sea urchin, like, and things that like lots of people don't really necessarily choose, and I'm not afraid of eating those kind of things.
Okay.
So it's like, I know a lot of people who are against it are kind of like, it's gross, I don't want to eat that kind of food, like whatever. That doesn't bother me.
Especially now.
Especially now, yeah.
I definitely think that, again, I really do think like a year or two ago,
yeah,
it would have been a little bit more difficult for you to be open to it.
I mean, I feel like if I went to an event that was like, you're trying a bunch of different vegan foods or stuff, which I probably, you're right, wouldn't have gone to, I wouldn't have been against eating the food. Like, I'm not against trying it. It was more like, I'm not going to implement that into my diet at all because I have alternatives that I'm using that I prefer. Kind of thing.
Yeah.
But no, I absolutely agree.
Yeah. Now, Grayden, have you ever heard that eggs are worse for you than cigarettes?
You told me this. This was the egg incident of 2017?
Now, there have been some studies that have found that egg yolks have a lot of cholesterol, and this can lead to a buildup of plaque in the blood. A study found that people who regularly eat egg yolks have the same amount of cholesterol in their bodies as smokers. Now, whether you believe the study or not, we all know that too many eggs may not be good for you. So, if you want to find a great way to avoid eggs and still eat your favorite desserts and baked goods, you should try Egg Replacer. All you need to do is combine it with water and you've got the perfect mixture for baked goods. Try Egg Replacer today. You can find it at most grocery stores. Try Egg Replacer today. Thanks, Egg Replacer, for sponsoring today's episode. Now, Grayden, I'd like to get on to our question of the day. And it's the topic of vegans. As a non-vegan, what's your kind of opinion on very ambitious or very pushy vegans?
Okay, I'd like to make a distinction between ambitious and pushy vegans.
Sure.
If you want to go like balls to the wall, I'm going to be 100% vegan. I'm going to like cut out everything that's not and be like super strict and specific. And your goal is 100% whatever you're going to be. I think that's great. Be as ambitious of a vegan as you want to be. I have no respect for pushy vegans.
Okay.
Because I'm not going around telling people to eat meat.
Okay.
I'm not saying, hey, you need to do this, you need to do... What I don't like, and this is just in general, like with religion, politics, anything.
Sure.
Is somebody who tells somebody else what they should be doing and being like, you should do this because, like, whatever.
Yeah.
I think everybody has the right to make their own decisions. And there's a difference between being pushy and just speaking and telling people about what you're doing. So like if I'm like, oh, I'm a vegan and I do this because of this and this, maybe you should look into that. That's fine. I've got no issue with that. Okay. But if you're somebody where I'm eating my meal and you're like, you know that meat's killing the world and something like that, and then you start telling me about all of the veganism things, that's when I have more of an issue. Like It's the same kind of thing as if somebody comes to me and tells me that I'm going to hell because I'm not Christian or whatever. And I know that they're very polar opposites, and they're not as like. There's definitely layers of how impactful something is. So like somebody who's telling me my religion is gonna send me to hell is not as aggressive as a vegan who's telling me that I need to be vegan. But I feel like if you want to have a conversation with me, like you're having right now, which is perfect, and like open my eyes to different things, that's the best way to approach it.
Yeah.
But if you're coming at me and being pushy, I have zero respect for you, and in fact, it actually like pushes me away. Because I don't want to be involved with that.
Right.
It's going to give me an association of vegans that isn't positive. I don't like this person because they're being mean to me. All vegans are going to be that mean, right? So the same kind of thing like with my friend who's kind of opened my mind a little bit is he didn't even tell me about it, right?
Yeah.
It just kind of happened. And he was very ambitious. He just cut it all out and went, I'm full vegan now, right?
Okay.
But he's not in my face about it, right? And that's kind of the thing. I think in general, as a person, you should live your life, make your own decisions, and if you think something's important, you want to talk about it. But you shouldn't have any need to enforce your will or what you think is right on other people and be aggressive about it.
So, okay, interesting. So from my perspective, I think that there is a place for not necessarily pushy vegans. So not necessarily when we're like out at dinner, I'm like forcing you to, to tell you something. But I think that there's a place for demonstrations. And I think that there's a place for, and I think that some people would view this as pushy. Some people would view protests and demonstrations where people are holding laptops with animals that are dying.
Mm-hmm.
Some people would view that as pushy, but from my perspective, I think that is a way to open people's eyes.
Yeah, see, so I don't view that as being pushy.
Okay.
I think, look, everybody has the right to speak their mind and do their own thing.
Okay.
And if you're having a peaceful protest or whatever you want to do to share your message and get it out there, that's fine. You're not coming into my life and putting it in my face.
Okay.
You're trying to get the word out in a way that isn't. See, to me, that's not pushy. That's just being like, you have a strong feeling about something and you are taking the proper approach of getting it out there. Because I think everybody has the right to do that. But when you're in my face, because there are like some protests that I've seen are pushy.
Yes.
Where they're in your face, they're stopping people from going into stores and yelling at them and things like that. I don't think that that's right. I think if you want to stand there and to be like, hey guys, this is why that you shouldn't do this. These are the alternatives that you can do. Mm-hmm. Learn more about it. That's great. Do that all you want.
Now, I think that there is a little bit of room for that. Like, the way that I view it is that, yeah, generally speaking, it seems to be working better when you're more trying to communicate a message, trying to speak. I mean, this is the whole point of this podcast.
Yeah.
It's literally to open people's eyes to understand more about this. But I think at the end of the day, it's at some level, like a shock factor or a very push factor can work. Now, it's not the best for everybody, but like for you, for example.
Yeah.
But I think that it's, I've seen these demonstrations. I haven't participated in any yet, but I've seen them, and I think that at some level they are beneficial because they spread the message, and maybe that message isn't always the best, but as an example, when I was in Hong Kong, some friends of mine did a demonstration for shark fins. So they put on these like masks, and they had these videos, and they were chanting and very loud and stuff, and I don't know if that was necessarily pushy, but that was a big scene. They got on the news, and whether or not some people will view that and say, hey, that's a little much, but we, as Canadians who don't eat shark fins because we know that it's bad for sharks, view that and say, that's great.
Yeah, so
right?
I agree that occasionally you need to do that to get a little notoriety, get some publicity. I think if that's the only way that you're getting that message. So if you're a group of people and you're deciding, you know what, for example, shark fins, we're have a platform against shark fins. My thought is let's have 1 or 2 events, maybe a month, that are in your face, a little more aggressive to get the word flowing. But you also need to counteract that with something that is not in your face and aggressive, where, hey, okay, we've got this big thing to gain publicity, but then come check us out every week. We're outside so-and-so. Come learn more about it. Whereas, I know, PETA and a lot of people that are... I'm not trying to lump PETA in with vegans because they're controversial in their own sense. But lots of these groups who are trying to get the messages across, it seems like their only way of trying to get their message across is being aggressive and trying to get notoriety in the news. And if that's your only approach, I think that loses its value, because after 3, 4, however many times you're on the news for being an aggressive person, everybody starts to go, oh, that's them being crazy again, and ignores them. I think the valuable way to do it is, yeah, sure, get in the news once or twice for whatever, but back it up with a platform that is grounded in being respectful and getting your message across. Because I think that's the most effective way of doing it.
Okay. Now, in that same vein, so I don't know, I don't think you've seen these videos, but I've seen a couple of videos where people who are speaking very calmly, like how I speak to, people when I'm trying to talk to them about this, are speaking to farmers. And some of these farmers, like in the UK and in Australia and in Canada as well, who are dairy farmers, or because I mean, we all kind of understand that the dairy industry is failing, and their reaction to us, to our calmness,
is much more aggressive,
very aggressive. What's your kind of view on that?
So my take on that is, obviously I don't think that those people are doing the right thing, but it's also, for them, it's a lot more of an issue because that's their job. That's how they're making money. And I feel like if you go, it's like choosing a place and time. Obviously, you do need to educate these people. You need to let them know and do all these things. But if somebody comes to your place of work and tells you that what you're doing is either not going to be done anymore, the way that you're providing for your family, you can take that very personally. So I think it's justifiable sometimes to see how they react. I don't think it's the right thing to do.
Yeah.
But I also think, like, if somebody's coming to me and telling me that kind of thing, I might react a little more aggressively. So I think, yes, that conversation needs to be had. I think there needs to be a platform with both of them on both sides having that conversation. But, like, if somebody's outside of my place of work protesting, doing their thing, even if it's peaceful, I take that as, like, it might be considered like an affront on you or an attack. You feel, like, victimized almost. Not... So I can see that kind of them being aggressive. And I don't really know the proper way to do that. Because obviously making a stand outside of a dairy farm or whatever is a good thing to do. But I also feel like had you done it somewhere else or whatever, they wouldn't have had that kind of reaction because it's not so personal to them. You know what I mean?
Yeah, okay. And that's interesting. I mean, I think it's a very hard line. Like, I think...
Yep.
I think that there is room and play for people to go stand outside pig farms, because that does allow people to understand that, you know, this is not necessarily always right. Because as a from the perspective of a vegan for animals, right? When people do protests and demonstrations out of pig slaughterhouses, I don't know how they kill pigs in Canada, but in some countries like Australia, I know that they use gas chambers. And one of the most, like, the worst sounds I've ever heard is that sound.
No, I've heard that too. I've seen it.
And it's like it destroys you for a little bit. You're like, wow, that's insane.
Yep.
So at the same time, I mean, they have to pick the place, right? Because if they do a demonstration that's in the city center, but they're not able to physically show that sound or physically get people to understand that sound.
But so are there not videos already and sound recordings of that? Can you not have a booth in the city center showing videos and things like that?
I would say it's not as effective. I think it's more effective if you're able to... Now, obviously, these pig farms are usually outside of the city and stuff, but by bringing attention to this place, you know, it's possible that a news show will go there and they'll capture that sound and they'll broadcast it to everybody.
Well, I think the only time that it is effective is if you get the news, and most of the time those protests it's the group of people, they go to the place and they call the news and tell them to come.
And the police show up.
And so that's fine. But once you've done that once or twice and you have the footage of all that, can you not have an event where you're sitting wherever and you're, hey, learn more about this is a terrible thing, look at this video or whatever. Because the more times you go there, the more you're asking for confrontation. You know what I mean? And confrontation can be great, and it can be... Sometimes you need confrontation in order to get the ball rolling and get things going. I agree. But I think everybody just needs to be a little... I don't know. Because you need to be aggressive to kind of change things. But I'm also at the fact where I think as a population, if we're educated well, we will be able to make the right decisions down the road. Okay. So, but that's also very optimistic on the population as a
little bit,
right?
Yeah. Because
obviously, like, now we've got Trump in office and things like that. You think if you're educated, I don't know. But I like to think that if people were presented with the facts and have both sides of the story, which they don't always have, and if you give them a platform to learn about it, they will hopefully make that right decision if given the right education.
So, in terms of that, I think that making the right decision is very hard, but it's extremely hard when society and when everyone around you is telling you the opposite. So, you know, even today, like, I've been vegan for over a year, and even today or yesterday, you know, I'll have my grandma call me and tell me, hey, you should try this fish, or you should do this, or eat this, like, drink this milk or something. Yeah. And that's society, right? Like, yeah, that's my family, but that's also society.
That's also another generation. It's not necessarily society as a whole. Like, I think that people have the same pressures with everything. Like, so for me, my diet, the way I eat, my grandparents come to me and tell me, oh, you're eating too much food. You should really whatever, relax. Okay. And the way that I've learned about the way that I need to provide nutrition for myself, the way that I need to eat in order to reach the goals that I want, I know that their opinion, although valid in some sense, isn't great. But when I talk to the people in our generation, and this, as right now, so our generation, the generation above us, I believe, is starting to become a majority of our society. Would you agree with that? The next few years?
Yes, sure.
So I think, although it's important, you're going to change the opinions of the younger generations. I think if you talk to a lot of people in the younger generations, you're going to see that they don't necessarily think the same way as the generation before. So if we're,
I think that that's like a thing that like, okay, so the way that I view it is, my grandma's generation, right? Her generation viewed things differently than the generation before her. Now, whether that will translate, like, so at some point, she's gotten in the routine of this is the way that things should be. And yeah, convincing her is very hard, but at the same level, I think that there are a lot of people that are very, like, everyone is very influenced by our previous generations.
And I agree, but so, like, is your goal with veganism for overnight everybody to be vegan?
Definitely not overnight. I understand that that's not going to happen.
So, but this is also the thing. Like, with the way you eat in veganism, in the grand scheme of your life, is not super impactful compared to, like, race and religion and all these other things, correct? Would you agree?
Sure.
So, if you look at, like, our grandparents' generation, racism is prevalent, right? But if you look at society as a whole now, we can agree that racism isn't viewed as something you should be doing. As a whole, it's frowned upon, correct?
Okay.
So that took many generations, a lot of time to change, and eventually society will change towards the way that is better, hopefully, if we're evolving properly, right? So I think what you'll see is in a few years, because there's people like us discussing it, and there's more education about different alternatives and ways to live your life, I think you'll see in a few more years, veganism will become a lot more popular, or vegetarianism, because of all the issues that you've raised and that make a lot of sense. But I don't think in the next 5-10 years, it's gonna, like, the whole population is gonna change, right? I think given a lot of time, absolutely, because as we evolve and we learn more about different things, we're gonna, as I was saying before, make the right decision. But that's also the thing about, like, pushy vegans versus ambitious vegans and things like that. I think a lot of people just want things to change immediately, but they're not going to.
Yeah.
Because it's really hard to change the opinions of people who have lived 40, 50 years of their life a certain way. And I think that's kind of what you're saying too, is with society. So yeah, but as your peer group changes and lots of people change through your growing up, society will change too. So down the road, eventually, I think we'll get to a point where if veganism is the right choice or vegetarianism is the right choice, society will reflect that, but it's not going to happen quickly.
Now, Grayden, do you love little things that are round and yummy?
If you're talking about testicles, yes.
These little balls are filled with lots of protein, dietary fiber, vitamins like A, C, K, iron, manganese, and zinc.
My goodness.
You can find them in their pod or pre-popped in bags.
You talking about Tide Pods?
Sometimes you can find them in the frozen aisle or in the fresh aisle. So head down to your local grocery store and grab green peas whenever you can. They are fresh, delicious, and yummy. Eat them raw, cooked, or throw them in a dish like shepherd's pie, or even a noodle dish. Try green peas today. Thanks, Green Peas, for sponsoring today's podcast.
I fuck with green peas. I support this product. I think they're a great sponsor. And, all you listeners out there should really get on those green peas.
Yeah. So, Grayden, now comes maybe the most interesting part of the day.
Oh, hell yeah.
Time for the taste test. Today we're going to be trying Tofurkey Deli Slices, oven roasted. Have you ever tried them?
No, I don't think so.
I haven't either.
Uh-oh.
They've been sitting around in our very hot room
They're
for
warm.
30 minutes. They're definitely
Not supposed to be served like this.
not supposed to be served like this. But I guess that's not a huge problem.
No.
So I'm going to open up this package. Hopefully it won't make too much noise. And we're going to delve into this food. One thing that I want to preface this because, as you know,
That looks
they don't look
not very appetizing.
They don't look good. What I wanna say is that I think that you should think of these not as a meat replacement. But I think you should just think of them as something to put in a sandwich.
Like an entity on its own, yeah.
Yeah.
If it tastes real good, I could see myself getting some Tofurkey.
And I think that's like one of the biggest barriers. We might need scissors.
I got scissors.
Wait. Let me try first. I got it.
Okay.
I think that's one of the biggest, like, the things that people don't realize. They're like, oh yeah, this food is a meat replacement, but I'm like, nah, it's really usually not. The only meat replacement I've ever had that was like really similar are the veggie burgers that like bleed.
I kind of want to try this, if I'm being honest.
You should try them. You should definitely try them.
I hear they've got them at White Castle. So.
In the States?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've heard that too. Okay, I could only get you a little bit, so I'm just going to give you that. They actually...
I'll give it a little smell.
You know what? I'm ripping them here.
Smells kind of meaty.
They rip like turkey.
Yeah? Okay.
They rip like turkey. They smell really good.
Yeah, they don't smell bad.
They smell like... I've had Tofurkey before. They smell like similar to Tofurkey. I couldn't screw with this. This is awesome.
It's not bad.
I'm going to put this on a sandwich tomorrow.
Yeah, I could see myself eating that.
Yeah. So that's...
What's in them, though, is my question.
Go ahead, look at them up. I think they're soy-based, these ones.
You've got some water, some wheat gluten, organic tofu, soy sauce, soybeans, canola oil, cornstarch, white bean flour, garbanzo bean flour, some lemon juice from concentrate, celery, onion, and then some vitamins. Oh, it's not terrible. Compared to like those veggie burgers that were just all things I couldn't pronounce yesterday.
Yeah.
I can pronounce all these things, so that's good.
That is a good thing. And they're actually really good. I would totally put them on a sandwich with some lettuce, tomato, and some vegan mayo, and I would totally eat these.
And they've got they're a good source of fiber and protein, so that's nice.
How much protein are they?
13 grams.
Per how many?
Per 5.
That's
not terrible.
That's pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
You could easily eat 10 of these and get 26 grams of protein.
Yeah, but so how many come in a pack, right?
Oh, that's like impossible to know. There's a lot here.
Wait, are they just like squished together? Can
yeah,
you tell me
there's like 20 or 30 in here.
Okay, so that's like it's like 2-3 sandwiches.
That's pretty good. They were not that expensive.
Honestly,
too.
You know what? If I see Tofurkey, I might give it a try.
That's awesome. That's what I want to take a care out of that.
Mm-hmm.
But they taste good.
Yeah.
They smell good. They taste kind of like
realistically, it didn't feel like a weird texture in my mouth, which was what I was a little worried about.
Okay, that's
like
good.
it.
I'm gonna try a bit more.
Yeah, sure. You know when you get like some salami from the store, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, I guess you don't.
Not anymore.
But
I know.
The kind of texture that it has is like it's a solid, but it kind of like is stringy a little bit. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of what this is like.
So this is really similar to the Tofurkey oven roast that I've had for Thanksgiving and for Christmas.
Would you do a full turkey?
No, they do something similar to this, and it's about the size of a small ham.
Okay.
I guess is that the way you put it, and it's great. It's like got stuffing inside and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I've had people try it, and they've been like, "Oh, it's not good." But I think that they didn't go into it the right way.
Yeah.
I think the way I preface this for you is the best. Is to say, don't think of this as meat. Don't think of this as turkey. Nothing like that. This is not that. This is something to put on your sandwich.
But so, mayo isn't vegan, right?
Mayo's not. Vegan mayo is phenomenal.
Nor is cheese, right?
No.
Because what I could really use is some mayo and some cheese on a sandwich. You know what I mean?
I don't know if you've ever had vegan mayo.
I haven't. I haven't tried vegan mayo.
It tastes better. B, you won't even notice the difference.
Okay.
So
But if it tastes better, shouldn't I notice the difference? I'm kidding.
Like vegan mayo is like the one.
Okay, it's not bad.
One of the things that I would totally.
I have had vegan cheese though a couple times. I've had bad vegan cheese. I hear that there's some good stuff out there hiding on the market, but I have not had good vegan cheese.
The problem with vegan cheese is it's super expensive right now. Mm-hmm. Vegan mayo is it's expensive, but it's not like that expensive. Mm-hmm. But vegan cheese is not expensive, or it's very expensive. And so that kind of is a barrier, but also, it's not the best. Mm-hmm. But vegan mayo, trust me,
okay,
I'll buy you some.
Okay, well we can try it out.
I'll literally buy you some. It's it's great. So I used to hate mayo.
Yeah.
I when I was a kid and I used to eat chicken, mm-hmm. I would go to Wendy's and I'd get like a chicken burger and I'd make sure that I asked for no mayo.
Spicy mayo is so
every
good, dude.
time. I literally hate mayo.
Okay.
Since going vegan and eating vegan mayo, I'm like, I could screw with this. This is pretty good. We're trying not to swear, by the way.
Oh, sorry. I said a lot of bombs.
That's okay.
You'll just have to cut
it's
around
supposed to be in a non-explicit
I'm so
thing.
sorry.
I'll beep it out. It's fine. I think
I didn't know
Daniel
that.
probably swore in the first one, but I didn't even call it.
I will not say bad words from now on.
It's okay. I should also preface you before I start.
Yeah, I wasn't aware that this was PG.
G, actually.
Ooh.
It's like a thing on the podcast
True.
app.
That's fair.
So I'm just trying to get everywhere I can. But in any case, these are awesome. I've bought similar ones before.
Yeah.
And I bought not this brand, I bought the Yves ones.
Mm-hmm.
And I literally bought them and never opened them because I was too afraid. Because I was like, this is going to taste not good and that's going to screw up everything for me for the rest of my life. These are great.
Yeah, they're not bad. I could see myself having a sandwich. And, like, so this is the thing. Like, things like this, I could see myself, just, like, for my sandwich after my dinner before going to bed, I could have some Tofurkey. At this point, I couldn't see myself substituting everything. But, like, where it's easy and, like, maybe with the mayo, I could see myself doing things like that.
You know what? That's perfectly exactly what I want to do with this taste test. Especially for, I mean, I'm going to have vegans coming on soon. And obviously, that's just to introduce them to something. But for non-vegans, I just want to kind of show them, like, you know, there
are options that don't taste
really
like
good
bad
things. And yeah, this tastes great. It's not supposed to be meat, right? And okay, the thing with the burger is, what I would say is that, yeah, you don't know what it is, but what they're mostly trying to do is they're trying to say, hey, you can have this burger. It's gonna taste good. It might not be like meat, and it's really good for vegans who are going to barbecues and stuff. Like, but that's all I eat.
I think that the market that's doing something like that is viewing meat eaters from the wrong perspective.
Okay.
I think they're viewing meat eaters who are just like, I like eating meat. Not necessarily being, which is like, I guess some people are like that, but not necessarily looking at it from the perspective of, I'm eating meat because of the nutritional value that I get from it in a lot of senses. Like, that might just be me too. I don't know. But if I went to a meat eater and went, hey, do you want to try this vegan thing that tastes just like meat or whatever, and I don't know what's in it? Or do you want to eat a piece of meat? They're going to pick a piece of meat every time. But if you went to somebody and was like, look, this is a meat-free substitute that gives you all the nutritional benefits that you can get, doesn't taste like meat but tastes really good, would you like to try this instead? I could see that working.
Now, the only thing that I would say to that, and we have to move on soon, but the only thing that I would say is, you say that you know what is in your meat, but I mean,
no, there's definitely like preservatives and things in my meat.
It's not even that. It's not even that though. At the end of the day, you don't know what was really fed to these animals. Most of the time, especially with farm-grown meat, they're feeding them corn and soy, and they're injecting them with
growth hormones and things.
Growth hormones and B12 as well, and so you don't really know what's going on.
I agree, but I'm also just going after the vegan hamburger that I had the other day, where I could understand like 3 of the ingredients. There were soy, caramel, and something else, and then the rest of the list, there was like 17 more items, were all things I couldn't pronounce. So maybe that was just that brand. But if I see something like that, I'm going to avoid it. Whereas, although yes, my meat is being fed all sorts of different things or whatever, I still know the nutritional content of what's in it.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
So I'd love to introduce you to the vegan burger that I had that one time. That's super like it's like just like meat, and it's actually I've read the ingredients. They're not that bad. The main ingredient is pea protein.
Okay.
They have just as much protein as a regular burger. The only problem with them right now is that they're expensive. Like, they're not cheap. They're not like a $2.
Well, I think that's one of the biggest
patty.
barriers too right now is the price. Like, I'm not gonna go buy a very expensive thing just because it's vegan at this point, because I'm a student who doesn't have a lot of money or whatever. I'm gonna pick the meat that's cheaper and is gonna give me the nutritional stuff that I need.
And that's gonna change. I mean, tofu is super cheap, but I get it. Like, you know, a burger, sometimes I buy burgers and I'm like, oh my god, I just spent $12 on like 8 burgers. I'm like, this is so expensive. Although that's not terrible.
No, that's horrible.
So, Grayden, have you ever made a dish and wondered, what kind of rice should I get?
Let me guess, is it basmati? Because I do love basmati rice.
Should it be jasmine rice, sushi rice, basmati rice, or brown rice? Well, thanks to today's sponsor, we know the best rice to get. Basmati rice is perfect for many different kinds of dishes, and the long grains are tasty and perfect for your rice cravings.
I do prefer basmati.
To top it all off, basmati rice is gluten-free. So, head down to your local grocery, grab a bag of basmati rice, and be happy. Thanks to Basmati Rice for sponsoring today's episode. Alright, as the final segment, I've got a recipe for everybody.
Ooh.
Before we go to it, is there anything that you'd like to say, Grayden?
No, I think this has been good. I think we've talked about a lot of good things. I think it's interesting, too, that you were open to have somebody who's not a vegan on your podcast.
Yeah,
I think
I'm going to have
great.
more. Yeah.
And yeah, no, I'm looking forward to like hearing how this podcast evolves because I want to hear kind of different opinions. I think it's really good. No, it's been good. I've enjoyed my time.
I'm excited to hear what your sandwiches will look like in a couple days.
Yeah, realistically, I've got a lot of meat in the fridge right now, so maybe next time I go to the store.
These are available basically everywhere, so...
Next time I go to the store, I will promise you I will get 1 pack of Tofurkey.
Alright, so today's recipe is 8-minute pantry dal. So the ingredients are 1 heaping tablespoon of virgin coconut oil, 4 cups of peeled, if necessary, and diced veggies, half a cup of uncooked red lentils, half a cup of water, plus more if needed. 1 14-ounce can of dried tomatoes, 1 14-ounce can of light coconut milk, 1 1/2 teaspoons of garlic powder, 1 1/2 teaspoons of minced onion, 1 tablespoon of good curry powder, or to taste, you can add as much curry powder as you like. 3/4 to 1 teaspoon of fine sea salt and freshly ground pepper to taste. The serving suggestions are a cooked basmati rice, today's sponsor, fresh chopped cilantro leaves, and fresh lime juice. In a large pot, melt the coconut oil over low-medium heat, peel and dice the veggies into a 1-inch pieces and add them to the pot and stir until combined. Increase heat to medium. Add in the rest of the ingredients: lentils, water, diced tomatoes, coconut milk, and all the spices, salt, and pepper. Stir until combined. Increase the heat to high and bring it to a low boil. Reduce heat to medium and cook uncovered for 18 to 30 minutes until the veggies and lentils are tender. The cook time will depend on the type of veggies you use and their size. Stir the dal frequently while cooking and reduce the heat if necessary to prevent it from sticking to the pot. If you're using potatoes, I suggest covering the pot while cooking since they don't contain as much water to cook off. You may need to add more water to thin the mixture. If desired, serve over rice and garnish with cilantro lime, and it's great to use without these additions. Just so you know, today's recipe is from Oh She Glows, and you can find it at ohsheglows.com. That's ohsheglows.com.
Oh, she glows.
It's a very famous cookbook, actually.
Is it?
Yeah. I'd like to thank today's sponsors, Egg Replacer, Green Peas, and Basmati Rice, Grayden, and you, the listeners, for being here with us today. If you have a question or suggestion, you want to be a sponsor, or you want to be on an episode, send us an email at veganambitionpodcast@gmail.com. Thank you, everybody, and have a great day.